کاوش مدیا.
But Murad, how has this last-minute deal with the nuclear agency helped Iran to stave off some diplomatic censure and saved already stalled talks from derailing further? I mean, was that a calculated move by Tehran?
Yes, absolutely, because Tehran is really a wolf in terms of diplomacy, negotiations, and this is the first step after a few years. Then we should expect more in terms of having all parties come to the least terms. On the other hand, it will be a hard bargaining because what the US administration demand is to restart the negotiations from the ground zero maybe, and include other regional developments, maybe inclusion of Iran to Yemen or Gulf region or relations with Israel. Then Iran says no. I think the course of the negotiations will be really fragile in the coming months or years, I don't know. And Iranian politicians seem stick to their original agenda because the current government in Iran is really decisive in terms of protecting the interests after the withdrawal of the Trump from the agreement.
Are there any prospects for a breakthrough?
Well, it depends on the perspectives of the parties because the Western Hemisphere perceive Iran as a challenger because they have a great program for delivery systems, say missiles or rockets, reaching out the far distances like the Europe, the whole Europe. And in the meantime, Iran is very active in Syria, in Yemen, in Gulf region, and in Lebanon. So right after this negotiation, I think Western expectation and perception will be based on having a more passive Iran. But I don't see it as a probability.
For a large part of the view that time is running out, it's just the U.S. administration kind of trying to put some pressure on Iran, trying to get them back to the negotiating table. I don't think the European powers are kind of, let's be honest, kind of clueless on this. And they're just trying to take the American lead. They don't have a lot of diplomatic bandwidth at this point. I don't think the Americans have a lot of diplomatic bandwidth. They're just overwhelmed in Washington, in Brussels, in Berlin. There's so many crises now, and then this one. And you got to imagine the pressure that these guys are under to deal with this. So I think that there is a kind of drift about this issue. There's a lot of confusion. And in some ways that is potentially dangerous. But I think that if you're Iran, you're looking at this situation and you're looking at the U.S. reluctance to even stay in Afghanistan and the possibility of real, actual military pressure must seem really far off at this point.
Iran is really different in the perceptions of the Americans because Iran is relevant to the security of Israel. So whatever happens in Pacific Ocean or related with China, I think the U.S. foreign policy will be based on securing Israel with the most opportunities and assets on the ground, and they will try to push hard to Iran to be more compliant with the terms that they impose. On the other hand, I think there must be something else to be concerned. It's the European interest because there will be a contradiction, in my opinion, in the coming days because Europeans perceive Iran as a market.
Yes.
They can sell products. And Iran's ultimate aim is to have all sanctions be lifted. So if you compare all aims and perceptions, I think Americans will be involved, but more focused on Israel's security and having Iran more pacified.
آنچه در مورد ما میگویند